Tragedy in Ahmedabad, the story of Air India's deadliest crash in 3 decades. In one of the most harrowing aviation disasters India has seen in the last 30 years, a London-bound Air India flight crashed shortly after takeoff from Ahmedabad, killing nearly everyone on board and dozens more on the ground. The horrific crash sent shockwaves across the country and around the world, leaving behind a community devastated, families in mourning, and investigators scrambling for answers. The aircraft, a Boeing 787 Dreamliner, took off from Ahmedabad's Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel International Airport early on a Thursday morning. On board were 242 people, including crew and passengers from multiple countries. For many, it was supposed to be a routine international journey, students returning to school, families visiting loved ones, professionals headed for business meetings. But barely seconds after liftoff, the aircraft lost altitude in a dramatic and terrifying descent that ended with a fiery crash into a densely populated residential area. The plane was fully loaded with fuel, approximately 125,000 liters, which exploded upon impact. The resulting inferno engulfed nearby buildings, vehicles, and homes, creating a nightmarish scene of destruction. Emergency services rushed to the site, only to be met with a scene of utter devastation. Houses were flattened, trees scorched, and entire blocks reduced to smoldering rubble. Dr. Deval Gamady of the Civil Hospital in Ahmedabad reported receiving 270 bodies as of Saturday. The grim task of identifying the deceased has been particularly challenging. Most of the bodies were either charred beyond recognition or severely mutilated by the impact and fire. Authorities have turned to DNA testing to match the remains with grieving families, a process that could take up to 72 hours or longer, given the condition of the victims. Among the bodies recovered, about 10 have already been identified as residents from the crash site area, innocent people who were in their homes when the aircraft struck. These bodies have been returned to their families, allowing at least some families to begin the mourning process with proper last rites. However, for many more families, closure remains painfully out of reach as they await results of DNA matches to confirm the fate of their loved ones. The composition of the passengers on board reflects the international scope of the tragedy. Of the 242 people on the flight, 169 were Indian citizens, 53 were from the United Kingdom, 7 hailed from Portugal, and 1 was Canadian. As news of the crash spread, embassies and consulates began the painful process of notifying next of kin, while social media became flooded with pictures, names, and desperate pleas for information about missing friends and relatives.
In the aftermath of the crash, India's Civil Aviation Minister Ram Mohan Kincharapu addressed the nation. He confirmed that the flight's digital flight data record, or commonly known as the black box, had been recovered. It was found on the rooftop of a building near the crash site by members of the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau (AAIB), the agency leading the official investigation. Minister Kincharapu emphasized that no possibility would be ruled out as investigators work to determine the cause of the crash. The AAIB, he said, is operating with full force to retrieve and analyze the flight data. This information will be crucial in piecing together what happened in those final seconds before the crash. Forensic teams continue to search for the second black box known as the cockpit voice recorder, which may provide additional insight into the conversations, alarms, and audio events in the cockpit during the flight's final moments. Both black boxes are key to understanding whether mechanical failure, human error, or environmental conditions were at play. Jeff Guzzetti, a seasoned aviation safety consultant and former investigator with both the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board (NTSB) and the Federal Aviation Administration (FAA), spoke to media outlets about the potential insights that the data recorders could offer. According to Guzzetti, investigators will be examining several possibilities. Were the wing flaps configured properly for takeoff? Did the engines experience a sudden power loss? Were any alarms going off in the cockpit? And did the crew accurately record and assess crucial variables like temperature, aircraft weight, and fuel load? All of these factors are critical in determining whether this tragedy could have been avoided. Guzzetti explained that errors in inputting flight data, such as misjudging outside temperature or fuel weight, can lead to improper wing configuration, which in turn can drastically reduce lift during takeoff, especially in a large aircraft like the Dreamliner. What adds another layer of complexity to the tragedy is the aircraft model itself. The Boeing 787 Dreamliner is considered one of the most advanced and safest aircraft in operation today. There are over 1,200 Dreamliners in service worldwide, and until this incident, it had maintained an impeccable safety record with no fatal crashes in its 16-year history. This incident, however, marks a deeply troubling moment for Boeing, a company already facing intense scrutiny over safety issues on some of its other aircraft, including the 737 MAX. In response to the crash, Boeing issued a brief statement expressing its condolences and confirming that it was in close contact with Air India. The company assured that it stands ready to assist in any way required during the investigation.
Meanwhile, Air India has offered condolences and financial assistance to the families of the deceased. The airline has also grounded its remaining Dreamliners for precautionary checks, though it insists this is not an indication of systemic issues. Officials have said they will wait for the results of the investigation before drawing conclusions. In the coming weeks, the eyes of the aviation world will remain fixed on India as investigators analyze the black boxes, review air traffic control records, and piece together eyewitness accounts. Experts from around the world, including those from Boeing and international aviation safety agencies, are expected to assist in the inquiry. For now, however, the focus remains on honoring the victims and supporting those left behind. Across India and abroad, stories of the passengers have begun to emerge: bright young students with big dreams, elderly couples on once-in-a-lifetime trips, parents traveling to reunite with their children. Each name, each face, a reminder of the lives cut tragically short. This disaster is not just a statistic or a headline, it is a heartbreak that ripples across families, communities, and nations. And as the country begins the painful process of healing, one hope persists: that from this tragedy, answers will arise, and changes will be made to ensure such horror never repeats itself.